it's it really makes me so sad that they would have so little confidence in me, that I would be a poor, grieving widow that would have zero discernment or would not understand the position that I'm in with all 40 years of ministry. In June, I can tell you that from his side, he was not even thinking about me in that way. I know that now based on he wasn't doing his social media and conversations we had and stuff. I have all the text messages from June and July. I have everything. And I went back and looked at all of them. And so it wasn't until July the 4th, after he left Poppy's house, that he was going back to Colorado Springs. And I actually had a conversation with Jonathan and
I remember
Susan
it.
on the phone. I was leaving the lake house, and I told them that if God wanted this marriage restored, that would be my desire, if it could be restored, that I would never ever want to interfere in that. And I told the Lord that. And so in talking to Denise, she told me, she had hopes that they could reconcile. And I told them, that could possibly, be the thing. Susie said,
he's not going back to her. He's coming for you.
Susie said he's not. No, you didn't say that. You said, she said, I don't believe that it's going to work out.
Right.
And she was very excited about the possibility of us being together. Okay. And by the way, you were like, this has broken my heart about me and you, because she was the only one really that I could enjoy the journey with. And she even told me her mother had his name prophetically.
Well, all my mom saw was that she felt like they're talking. And I've kept my parents out of this.
But I talked to her.
It was discernment that you were talking to him, not a validation of the relationship.
But
It may have changed now, but her mother felt very good about Doug, etc.
maybe I'll keep my mom out of it.
Keep her out of it, but she's part of it. And there's a lot of other people like I didn't hear that are part of it. And I'm going to read their names, okay? So, but to somehow peg me in a way that I am what they're saying is just absolutely.
No, we're just talking about efficacy, not you.
What do you mean peg you in a way?
We're not talking about you.
With the whole thing about a grieving widow and all of that.
That's normal. I mean, that's
human
every
nature.
human. That's not you. That's everyone.
Marcus Lamb for 6 months. Every night I cried, but I got up, and this was the 7th and 8th month we're talking about now, where I said, Lord, I can't. And he's like, I'm putting you back together. There were prophetic words from Hubie Sin. In fact, Hubie Sin told me, do not listen to your children. They are the worst people you can talk to right now. And she said, you've got to follow the Lord, et cetera, et cetera. And so there were a lot of voices along the way that told me, I love my kids, but I'm not going to go to them for advice on my relationships or decisions I make concerning personal relationships. They're 25 to 30 years behind me. I'm going to go with people who are my age, people like you, people like, in fact, I wrote down all these names of the people like Drenda Cassie, who told me that the Lord's about to bring somebody into your life. This was July. He woke me up 3 days ago and said, the Lord said, don't close your heart and don't be afraid. People like Hubie Sin, people like my former assistant, Sam McNeil, who told me later, after she kind of knew, walking with me through this process, and she's like a little intercessor for me, and she showed me an email that she had written back like in August, where the Lord had showed her that he would be the one, but she didn't show me till many months later. She showed me the date on it. People like Cheryl Pruitt Salem, former Miss America, who upon hearing about us seeing each other, she said, I was praying and there's not anyone that I could have thought of that could better fit with you in your world than Doug. People like Cindy Murdoch, and they'll say, oh, well, she's my friend, she's on the table. But she's a friend that would wound me with truth, just like I've done with her over the years. And she would tell me if she didn't feel right about it. People like Cindy Johnson and Darius Johnson, who we've gone on 2-week trips with, where Darius had intense time with him for hours and hours to talk to him and ask him questions. A seasoned pastor who has discernment, who was one of Marcus's best friends, who would be more protective over me than anybody. People like Jimmy Evans that I talked to in July the first time, and then later in July, people like Karen Evans that I talked to through this process. You all said the same thing, Just wait, because the kids aren't ready. And so if we didn't have kids, we would have been married sooner. But we've waited.
How soon do you think you'd have gotten married if you were?
It doesn't matter.
I'm just curious.
And so people like Rhonda Davis that have a program on Daystar, been a friend over 30 years, pastors at church, who's one of the closest people to God that I know of, who has prayed and stood with me on through the whole journey. I've told her every detail of stuff they don't know, the kids don't know. I mean, good and bad, and has 100% felt Robert and Debbie, who Robert told me that Doug is known for his integrity in Colorado Springs. We went and met with them. Joyce Meyer, who has called me on multiple occasions, multiple times, he talked about it. John Hagee, who went through a similar situation where he divorced his wife. He did not have adultery, but some of the same situation that Doug was in couldn't have been nicer. James Robinson, who came to my house and met with Doug without me being there and questioned him and said at the end of it, I don't know how you stayed in the marriage as long as you did, but he's not, there's no credit being given to that, because you're right, they have no filter, they have no understanding, they have not been in ministry long enough to understand the 40 years that you've been in ministry and dealt with this over and over, that he's dealt with over and over and over. So Sean Bolts, who they hold in highest esteem, had a long conversation with him. He said, I have a friend that went through exactly the same thing and gave his blessing, prayed about it, called me back. Jesse Duplantis, who has met Doug, sat with him, with Lawson Purdue, who pastors a church in Colorado Springs, said, I remember him. And Dean and Kim Hawk, who are his pastors now, we've already had dinner with them on 2 different occasions, had a conversation. He's going to do the communion at the wedding. And not to mention my immediate family, my cousin David, who's very close to me in Tamala, spent time with Doug. My mother, who is livid over all of this happening right now, because she knows me better than anybody else, because she birthed me, and she trusts my judgment and my discernment with the things of God. My brother Lane, my sister, my brother-in-law, who was Marcus's brother. I mean, I could go on and on. You know who would be the most upset at this right now? It's Marcus Lamb, because there was no one that had more trust in me and my ability to have discernment and to do what is right than Marcus Lamb, okay? So that's just, this morning the Lord said, write down, because what he told me, he said, no matter what happens, he said, Joni, he said, I want you to enjoy this moment, and I want you to celebrate with the people that I have surrounded you with, that you trust and that you know. And so when they say we don't have peace, I'm not gauging my life on their peace. I'm gauging my life on my peace. And even with all this chaotic, crazy stuff going on, especially with Rebecca, who has gone crazy, the Lord, in the middle of all of it, is just like this unbelievable peace